Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2025 Wildwood 178Bhsk. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you are pre-wired for a Furrion observation camera. It's just a camera that goes on the back there, would let you view the back of the trailer whenever you're backing up or driving. Great little addition. You can contact a parts department for more information on that and they can put together a quote for you. You also are pre-mounted for a collapsible Lippert stair system. It would be just a collapsible stair system that connects onto that mount there, collapses so you can take it off whenever you're moving and store it away. It's just so that you can get up and periodically check all your seals and everything easily. And then you do have your spare tire located right at the back here. And then coming to the driver's side of the unit, pulling on this bumper cap, pulling it right out of place. Typically that's where you're going to want to put your storage hose or your sewer hose after your first use. We do have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in here yet. But after your first use, that is where you're going to want to put it. In this corner, as well as all four corners of the unit, you do have stabilizer jacks. The way they work is you're just hooking up that 3/4 inch drive tool to the 3/4 inch drive nut, running this foot down to the ground. Once the foot contacts the ground, just giving another 1/8 quarter turn to snug it up, and it's going to take any bouncer sway you see we have in the unit right now away. One thing I'm going to mention with your stabilizer jacks is they are stabilizing jacks and not leveling jacks. Please don't try and use them for a leveling jack. You do run the risk of bending them, and of course if you do have a cordless impact, always being mindful of how much torque you're putting onto them. Then coming up forward, you've got your main sewer outlet. You're just taking and twisting that knob off. That is where you're going to have those two ears. Sewer hose is going to have those same two ears. They just line up with the notches like so. Twist, lock into place. You got your gray valve and your black valve. You're always going to want to empty your black valve first. It's going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets, and then you can come behind that with your gray valve, which is typically cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. One thing I forgot to mention at the back corner is you do have your two low point drains. So you got your hot and your cold. So if you're leaving the unit for a while and don't want the water going stale or stagnant, you can crack these guys open. It's going to try and drain as much fluid out of the lines as possible. And of course, it's always a great little thing to do once you're done your winterization, if you decide to do it yourself. Once you're done your winterization, just cracking those guys open, letting that fluid drain out, and then putting them back on. And to the left is your sewer outlet. You got your black tank flush. So you're gonna see there is a caution sticker there. So whenever you are using this, it's always important to have your sewer connected and your black tank open. The reason being is because you're pushing pressure inside the tank. If the pressure's got nowhere to go, it is gonna expand the tank and it could expand it to the point of cracking. So always be mindful of that. But what you're using that for is if noticing an odor around the unit or you got false monitor panel readings coming up, just a good idea to give that tank a flush. And then you do have your city water connection, so if you're out of site with service, you can thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It does pressurize all those lines without the needing to run your water pump. And then you do come back to your standard 30 amp twist lock connection. Just take a note of that notch there. It lines up with this notch on this side. Pressing that in, firm, press it into place, 1/8 turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug end. Most campsites should have this and you can plug right on in, but let's say you have the unit at home and you want to run your fridge, or your campsite only has 15 amp service, which is a household style plug. We do include that 15 amp park adapter. Just keep it in mind, if you're using the 15 amp park adapter, you can't run your air conditioner. It really is just to run your fridge and your lights, so just be mindful of that. Whenever you do plug it in, you get that blue light on the top telling you have a successful power source. If the red light were to be on, it'd be telling you your source of power isn't bad and it's not a problem with the trailer. Coming up ahead, you do have your first storage compartment on this side here. You do have that 3/4 inch drive tool, which hooks up like so. Comes included. And then also on this side, you do got that standard starter kit. You get your 10-foot sewer hose, 15-foot water hose, and some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15 amp park adapter, which I first told you about. Around the front of the unit, inside this box here is your battery. And then on the front frame here, you're gonna have a battery disconnect. So within the on position, like it is now, the battery's connected to the unit. If you were to turn it to that off position, the batteries would become disconnected from the unit. And then located right at the front here, you do got your standard 20-pound propane tank. Pretty simple. If you want to get it off, you just have to take this wing nut off, take it right off. That would allow this to expand. that point, you can disconnect your tank and pull it right off, of course, making sure it's off. To turn it on counterclockwise like any standard barbecue, nice and slow. Opening it up all the way does open up the flow of propane to the unit. You got your front tongue jack, one way is up, the other way is down. Coming to the passenger side, you do got a little solar, so if you had your own portable solar panel, you could plug it in there. And then flipping this guy open just comes to the other side of that storage compartment. You got the weight distribution inside there, which this customer did opt to go with. Got your main entry doorway, which I'll go over in a minute. And then you got your fresh water fill. So if you're out boondocking or your campsite doesn't have water service, this is how you would fill your fresh tank. Stick a garden hose in there, turn it on. It does fill your fresh tank, and that's what your water pump draws off of. Furnace exhaust, whenever that's running, it's going to be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. And then right down below the floor here, you got that last little cap. Pulling that off does drain all the water out of your fresh tank. Now you got your hot water service port, taking that tab, pulling it open. All you really necessarily need to worry about inside here is just that pressure relief valve. Whenever you're done winterizing for the year, start over. This isn't like your standard water heater. If you've had a camper before with a water heater and you've winterized it, you typically have bypass valves because you don't want antifreeze going inside that tank. This one is the total opposite. You do want to run antifreeze through it. If there's bypass valves at the back, which there shouldn't be, don't touch them, leave them. Run antifreeze through it with it off. Once you're done winterizing for the year, once you're done winterizing everything, just cracking this pressure relief valve and leaving it open. That way that antifreeze has its place to go once it starts gelling up when it gets super cold. Power switch just turns on power to the thermostat that's inside. That's all you need to worry about that's inside there. You have your exterior shower, which works off your standard 751 key, which should come included with your unit. Hot and cold water, swivel head. You got two 110 plugins right on the outside. And then you have your weird little kitchen area, clips up top like that. You got this travel latch, so whenever you're traveling, pushing that down. Whenever you want to pull it up, just pulling that up. You can slide that out, and then at that point you can lock this back down as well as the other side, so that it can't go back. Then you got your quick connection propane line running the one end down underneath the unit and connecting this at the back. You got to make sure you do pull that red tab all the way out of the way. That'll allow you to pull that coupler back like any standard airline. Push and it'll lock it into place. Then you can run this down to your propane quick connect, which is just right over here. Pulling that cap off with the valve closed. The flow of propane is closed. It's going to allow you to operate that coupler and push and lock it into place. Now that you're locked into place, turning the valve opens up the flow of propane. You'd be able to come to your griddle, hit the igniter, and it should fire right on up. Of course, as long as everything is purged. Sometimes it could take a few minutes. If you've had the propane system off, it allows air into the system, so you do have to purge it, so it can take a few minutes. But with that valve, you can't operate that coupler. You do have to close it, and then it would just be putting everything away. You also have a 110 mini fridge inside here, but that is only going to work when you're hooked up to shore power. Now to get inside the unit, you're just taking that assist handle, pushing it up, folding it 90 degrees, it'll lock into place. That'll allow you to pull down your stairs, open up your door. Up on the wall here, you're going to have your range hood flap. Whenever you get to your campsite, you're going to want to make sure that's open so you can evacuate those fumes. And then whenever you're traveling, just pushing and snapping it into place will stop excess dust from getting inside. Taking a step on inside, first thing you notice off on your left is that fire extinguisher. Pretty simple, pull the pin and shoot. Up on the wall, you got your main monitor panel system. You also have the light switch for your exterior awning light, and it's going to turn on some interior lights here, just the main living space. You got two switches, one being your slide out button. Pushing it down will allow the slide out to make its way out. Of course, always keep it in mind what's on either side of the slide before you operate it. Reason being, sometimes inside during travel, things can shift and get in the way of the slide out, so you don't want to crush them and cause any damage. And then of course on the other side of the slide out, making sure you have enough room that you're not going to hit anything. And once that slide out is fully extended, you're going to hear the motors wind up and quit. So there you go, you know that's at that full extension. Now this next switch is for your awning. One way is retract, the other way is extend. Of course, one thing I should mention, always making sure that you do have your door closed 90 degrees so it doesn't run into contact with that arm when you're trying to run it, causing any damage. That'll allow you to run that awning out. Now unfortunately today we're not going to be able to make it all the way out just due to space. But once it's fully extended, you can see the back of the metal tube and the little flap hang down. I'm going to retract it a little bit just so I can show you how these arms work. You got these two tabs here. It's going to work the same front and rear. You're just pushing them in. And then you could grab the arm. And of course, if it was fully extended, it's going to be a lot easier. But you would just pinch that and pull it in. We don't have it out all the way, so it's a lot harder to do it right now. And all it does is change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to run off if it was raining. And then of course, it does allow for more shade underneath. So if you like the angle better, you can do the same thing with the front arm. It's gonna allow for more shade, but just making sure you do have them both on the same hole when you go to bring it back in, so you don't run the risk of bending anything. Now inside your main bedroom space area, you got your binder which holds all your keys and manuals. Then you do have your couch. To flip it out into a bed, you're removing these cushions and the little pillow, which will then allow you to grab the foot of the bed and fold it out. And then that'll allow you to fold down your mattress. Folds out like so, and you'd have yourself another bed. You do got sleep app access on either side of the bed in case you needed that. And then of course there's plugins on either side as well as USB and USB-C. Then to get it back, just doing the total opposite of what you previously did. Grabbing the foot of the couch, pushing and assisting it back into place. That'll get you back into the couch, and you can fold your mattress back. And you'd have yourself another sitting area again. Storage all around. All the blinds in the unit will work the same way. They'll just kind of sit where you leave them. Now into this kitchen area. One thing I'm going to mention, whenever you've had your propane system off for a while and you turn it back on, the first thing I recommend doing once you get to the unit is just flipping open the stove top. Being careful because this is glass, so it's fragile. Push in, turn it over to the high/light option, and it does fire right on up. So today I had the propane system running earlier, which is why it did fire up so fast. Typically it does take a few minutes just to purge all the air out of the line, so just be patient with it if it doesn't fire up right away. And the reason I'm telling you to fire the stove first is because once you go to fire your water heater or your furnace, you're not going to get any fault codes causing you any issues, because you know the propane is already purged. And then of course flipping this back down. And whenever you are running the stove, I recommend running your range hood. That way you're evacuating all those fumes. Mentioning that now, you got your LP detector right here near the ground. If this guy ever starts going off, you're just getting to worrisome levels. Don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit and open up some windows and vents to ventilate it out a little bit. It's also very sensitive to cleaning chemicals, so if you ever spray any cleaning chemical around it, use your best judgment, but typically it's just that. You got your furnace output right here, so it's going to put all its air out of this vent here. So if you need to get a fan to move air around a little bit, you could do so. And then the rest of the kitchen space is pretty much just like home storage all around, just being mindful of any drains or water lines. You got your thermostat for your water heater on the wall. You can change it between Celsius and Fahrenheit with the press of a button, up or down to change your set temperature. Right off the bat, you are locked to 50 degrees Celsius. That's just as an added safety feature so kids can't scold their hands. If you wanted to unlock it to go an extra 5 degrees, you just have to push and hold the up button for 5 seconds. And it would allow you to go up to 55. Power button to turn it on and off. Inside here, opening this up, you got some more storage space. Microwave, which is pretty much just like home. Then you do got your refrigerator. Open that guy up. Fridge, freezer up top. Nice big size. And then right down below, you got your controls for both. Counterclockwise or clockwise all the way is going to be your coldest setting. Anywhere before that is a warmer setting. And then you got some off-grid lighting here. So that is just the most energy efficient setting to have the fridge on whenever you're running it off battery power. Then you got your charcoal filter to help with any fridge odors. If you'd like to get any extras of those, you can contact the parts department. Now, up on the roof, you got your AC. You also do have a roof vent. Works pretty simple. You just pull down on that black tab, fold it on up. Now, if you notice, if you look, you do open straight up into the atmosphere. So if it were to start raining and you had this open, it is going to get wet in here. Unless, of course, you went with a max air cover. That just goes over top of this. Nice little cover. And it's also going to allow you to leave this open if you're traveling. With no cover, you can't leave it open with traveling without running the risk of damaging the lid. Power button to turn the fan on, and then to close it, just pulling down again and locking that into a tab. Got your main fuse and breaker panel right here down below. Flipping that guy open. You got all your fuses on your right. Whenever you have a fuse blow, there'll be a little red indicator light letting you know which one's gone. Whenever a breaker trips, it will sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. Then you're going to notice that little sticker for your antifreeze inlet. Pulling these two screws off. This is, of course, if you're doing winterizing yourself. Pull these two screws off, take this false panel out of the way. That would give you access to the bypass valve for the water pump, so you can stick that other hose into your jug of antifreeze. Now you got your bunk space. Nice curtains top and bottom for some privacy. You got lights on both the top and bottom bunks. And then the bottom bunk, you can flip this mattress off to the side, and you can run this up. And way up at the front here, there is a latch so you can lock it into place. And then you can have an extra big storage space for any extra storage items you have to put under here. Bikes would probably be one of those things. And then it's just as simple as flipping it back down to get it back into your bunk space. Now on this wall here, you got your TV bracket already mounted. Up top, prep for Wi-Fi. Again, if you'd like to get set up with that, just contact your parts department. Then you got your main coax outlets. Little black button to the left of it turns on the antenna on the roof, turns that green light on. Having that on does also improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency. I typically leave it on whenever you're camping, but whenever you're not camping, I do recommend leaving it off because it does draw battery power. USB and USB-C plugins right here on the wall. A couple plugins, and then you got your thermostat for your furnace. Turning that guy all the way to the right, it's going to be its hottest setting. Anywhere before that's a warmer setting. And then pulling it and clicking it off turns it back off. Now the furnace does run for an additional 3 minutes just to allow itself to cool down for an added safety feature. Now your controls for your air conditioner are up on the ceiling. A couple different options. Of course, you could close these or open them depending on where you want your airflow, and you do have louvers on either side you can adjust. And then you got your fan controls. So your first fan setting is a low fan, then you got a second low fan setting, and then you got a high fan setting. Now that's just moving air around with the air conditioner. There's no cooling involved. And when you have the temperature setting knob over here, you're gonna notice it has a hot setting. Now that would be if there was a heat pump installed, but there isn't a heat pump installed on this one, so you can just leave it on that blue setting all the time. Now back to your fan setting, come to the blue fan. That's when the air conditioning takes into effect, which turns on the compressor. Same thing, but on a high fan, and then turning it all the way back around to turn it off. Up here, you got these two little plastic vent covers. They snap out of place, and those are the intake vents where your air conditioner tries to suck up air. Sometimes these do get dusty, so you just have to blow them out with some compressed air. Last but not least, we are taking a step into the bathroom. The light switch is on its own center push button. Light switch is on the wall, and it's also on its own center push button, but you just use the wall. Then you come to your main GFI plug. You got reset in the middle, test on the bottom. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I'd look. And then of course, just your standard bathroom the rest of the way. Shower, toilet. You do have another roof vent right here. Same thing goes for the one that I showed you earlier. That is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.